The Audi e-tron has been on sale for a couple of years now. It was one of the first big premium electric SUVs designed to rival cars like the Tesla Model X, the Jaguar I-Pace and the Mercedes EQC, majoring on things like quality, comfort and the ability to charge double quick time. But now Audi has launched this, the e-tron Sportback. It's a coupe-styled version of the standard SUV, but it uses the same mechanical platform, the same electric motor and the same tech-filled interior. So are the compromises you have to make with regards to space and practicality worth the extra style and the higher price? Let's find out. From launch, the e-tron Sportback will be offered in 55 Quattro guise, featuring a 95 kWh battery with a certified range of between 237 and 241 miles, depending on spec and wheel choice. There is a less powerful, smaller battery 50 Quattro version coming later, as well as a fire-breathing triple-motor e-tron S with almost 500 brake horsepower. To many, this e-tron Sportback will be the more visually attractive option, but at 4.9 metres nose to tail, it's just as long, if ever so slightly narrower, than the standard SUV. From the front, the Sportback looks identical, but at the rear it's a different story. The roofline dips away sooner, while the revised beltline gives it a small lip spoiler and a taller back end. It certainly has presence. Audi pitches the conventional e-tron as a kind of electric Q7, while this Sportback version perhaps has more in common with a petrol or diesel-powered Audi Q8. The art of the e-tron Sportback's design is that from a distance you don't notice quite how big it is, but get up close and it's as imposing as anything in the maker's extensive product range. The interior design is typically strong, nothing rattles, nothing shakes and nothing squeaks. Interior quality is absolutely exemplary as well, and this digital dashboard looks absolutely first rate. Audi has stuffed its first electric car full of technology, and just like the conventional SUV, this Sportback version is available with these digital door mirrors, but more on that a little bit later. The interior centres around these two touchscreen displays. Now the top one, that gives you access to things like sat-nav, mobile phone connectivity, media and stuff like that, whereas the bottom one's used for the climate control, as well as things like the heated seats and the fan speed and temperature. Now the only problem we found, and this is a problem with a number of Audi systems, is the haptic feedback. It just doesn't feel that logical and that intuitive to use. You actually have to physically prod the touchscreen rather than just tapping things as you would on a normal screen. Elsewhere, you've got a couple of cup holders down here, some wireless phone charging, you've got slots for USBs as well as an SD card and a SIM card down there. You've got a big bin here, you've got big door bins and a decent sized glove box as well. Elsewhere, our car's glass roof is a really worthwhile option as it floods the cabin with light. The driving position is fantastic, there's loads of adjustment in these electric seats and they're really comfortable as well. In fact, the only real problem we find from here is over the shoulder visibility, as that sloping roofline really restricts your view, especially on the motorway. Now, practicality isn't actually too bad, so let's go and take a look at the boot. Audi has robbed about 2 centimetres of headroom from rear seat occupants, but unless you're really tall, you're unlikely to notice. The boot is 45 litres smaller, but at 615 litres, there's still plenty of space, and you're more than likely to keep the cables in the nose, which there is a special dedicated storage space for. In here, there's some decent underfloor storage for odds, ends and valuables, and fold the seats down, you've got 1,655 litres. All told, it's a pretty practical family car. Unlike the standard SUV, the entry-level Sportback comes in flashy S-Line spec, with prices starting from a smidge over £80,000. With it, this brings kit like privacy glass and larger 21-inch alloy wheels, as well as matrix LED headlamps and scrolling indicators front and rear. Inside there's electrically adjustable and S-embossed front sports seats covered in Valcona leather. Launch Edition sits above the S-Line, identifiable by way of its black styling, exclusive Audi Sport wheels and standard fit digital door mirrors, an option fitted to our test car. Also standard on the Launch Edition is a full-length panoramic sunroof, powered steering wheel adjustment and the more sophisticated Virtual Cockpit Plus. Vorsprung tops the range, with huge 22-inch alloy wheels, digital matrix lights, super sport seats with diamond stitching and a Bang & Olufsen stereo. So the e-tron certainly doesn't scrimp on kit, but it will need more than a fancy kit list if it's going to justify that price premium over the standard SUV. The trouble is, it feels much the same from behind the wheel, and that's to say it is comfortable and it's quiet. In fact, it's really refined in here. And that's not just because it's an electric car and all electric cars are quiet. This thing is exceptionally refined. There's little to low road noise, and thanks to our car's digital door mirrors, there's very little wind whistle from around there as well. Whether or not that coupe roofline makes any difference to the way this car drives, it's hard to call before driving the two cars back to back, but regardless, it's a very relaxing car to drive. That is until you realise quite how big this car is. It feels wide and cumbersome on anything other than 3-lane motorways. And that's only exacerbated by our car's digital door mirrors, which require complete recalibration of your brain. It's quite disconcerting at first, and only after a while do you realise that you have to look down rather than across to see what's going on behind you. Audi has done everything in its power to disguise this car's curb weight, like mounting the batteries under the floor, but there's very little avoiding the fact that this car weighs 2.5 tonnes. It rides really rather well, but body control could be better and there's little to no feel through the steering. Performance is electric. 0-62 miles an hour takes 5.7 seconds, and you can hit 124 miles an hour flat out. Now, if that's not quick enough for you, and believe me, for most it absolutely will be, there's a forthcoming S model that will do 0-62 miles an hour in 4.5 seconds and hit 130 miles an hour. Of course, if you spend too much time at those top speeds, your range figure will plummet like a stone, so beware. Now, there is a regenerative braking system operated via the steering wheel mounted paddles. The first setting isn't that noticeable at all, whereas the second setting does slow you down with a bit more pressure. Now, Audi claims that the car only uses its traditional friction brakes when you require more than 0.3 Gs of braking force, which means you can drive around most of the time just using the paddles on the steering wheel. But again, like those door mirrors, it requires a bit of recalibration of your brain. Still, once you get used to it, it's quite a handy feature. While Audi claims as many as 241 miles on a charge, you're unlikely to get anywhere near that in real-world driving. On the motorway, the e-tron Sportback hunkers down automatically to improve aerodynamics. But as mentioned, this is a big, heavy SUV, and we'd wager 200 to 210 miles is more realistic. You might see slightly more if you spend most of your time in stop-start traffic. Still, Audi claims the e-tron's charging system is more efficient than its competitors, allowing it to charge at a higher speed and for longer too. We saw it hold 150 kilowatts from 45 to 80%, and a 100 kilowatt average for the full charge. As the 55 and the S model have the same 95 kilowatt hour battery and identical charging speed, their top-up times are the same. Nearly 14 hours to 100% from a home wall box, and just under half an hour to 80% if you can find a 150 kilowatt public rapid charger like we did. While these chargers are currently few and far between in the UK, they're becoming more commonplace and should help those looking to cover long distances in their electric vehicles. Of course, a big benefit of any EV is the sizable tax breaks, both for private buyers and company car drivers. Electric cars are exempt from road tax and command a 0% BIK rating for the 2020-2021 tax year. On top of this, Audi e-tron drivers can enjoy exemption from the London congestion charge, as well as discounted parking in some areas. Beware, however, anything you do save may well be gobbled up when it comes to insurance, as the e-tron Sportback sits in Group 49, just one group from the very top. The Audi e-tron Sportback takes everything we love about the standard car, namely its technology, its refinement and its comfort, and wraps it up in this cool, coupe-styled SUV body. Yes, it's expensive, quite significantly so, but that alone doesn't make it a less accomplished family car. So there's plenty that we love about this, but for now, the Jaguar I-Pace remains our favourite big, premium electric SUV. Head to DrivingElectric.com for all the latest electric and hybrid car advice, news and reviews, and check us out on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Finally, while you're here, make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss a video.